Well, today's video is Saint-Étienne, France. Saint-Étienne was a very important industrial city. Huh? You want to be in Saint-Étienne video? Okay. Girls of Saint-Étienne. Okay. People are really friendly here. So anyway, Saint-Étienne was an important industrial city in the 19th century and got very rich. So there's a lot of beautiful Art Nouveau, Belle Epoque architecture here. But right now we're in the old part where it was part of the Camino de Santiago. So as we saw in Le Puy-en-Velay, the pilgrims made their journey by foot through France to Spain, and so they stopped through here. So we have here markers in the shape of the shell, which is a symbol for the Camino. So this is the oldest part of Saint-Étienne, and it has lots of nice pubs. It's very popular. Saint-Étienne is a big university city with lots of students that come here to study, and so they hang out here in the evening, drinking beer, smoking, talking. The French, they still have good conversation. That's very, very important. So there's lovely little side streets and restaurants. And there's a funny shop called Captain Donut. They're not as funny. They don't have donuts in the morning here in France. They have them in the afternoon and the evening. But they make these fancy donuts. And there was a sausage shop here with sausages and beer from Berlin, but they went out of business. And France has lots and lots of famous pastry shops. So this is one of the pastry shops, which is really, really good. The patisserie is superb. And I really try to stop myself from eating a lot of pastries because it's very easy. And here's a lovely photography shop with vintage photography, reproductions of course. And coming up is the Café Saint-Jacques. So normally there's not a lot of cars that go through because this is a pedestrian area, but sometimes there are cars. But anyway, lovely old houses from the Middle Ages. And here's a sign of the Camino. So that's St. James. And for those who do the Camino, the Camine as they say in French, this is the way you go. Follow this path. And then you'd eventually get to Spain in about a few weeks. I don't know how many weeks. There are some people that still do it. So, leaving the historic quarter of the old buildings, we come to a really, really beautiful avenue. So, with all the money that industry made, these companies that produced different wares, and I mean, the industrial age was all about factories, and they had coal mines here. So, with the coal, they were able to have a lot of factories and get very rich. So they built a lot of beautiful buildings on this street. So it is just about 2 o'clock. The French, they have lunch from 12 to 2. Most businesses here, they close from 12 to 2, and then they slowly reopen at a leisurely pace. The quality of life in France is still about quality of life, and so they do not rush through lunch. They take a leisurely lunch because it's usually their main meal of the day. A lot of beautiful buildings. So this is a monument to my favorite opera composer, Jules Massenet, who was born in this area and grew up in Saint-Étienne before going off to Paris and becoming famous. So they dedicated this Art Nouveau monument to him. And the naked lady is supposed to be, I believe, Thais, which was one of his famous operas. He wrote quite a few operas, almost 20 operas in total, but only a handful of them still get performed today. And behind is a beautiful Art Nouveau building. Let's go walk up to the Art Nouveau. So this building is the detail. If you can see the detail on the doors and the windows that frame the windows. So beautiful. And the balcony, surrounded balconies, I love it. And the year it was built was 1904. So the Art Nouveau movement in France was very, very important. And down this street is really something interesting, which we're gonna go see. So there are some modern buildings in between some of the older buildings they replaced, but so many beautiful Art Nouveau buildings here in Saint-Étienne. I really enjoyed my visit here for the architecture and the leisurely pace. It's not hectic. Here's another beautiful little street. So it feels like Paris, but it's small and quiet. It's not like crazy like Paris, but it has the same architecture like Paris. And the people have been really friendly. I'm very lucky to have found a really nice Airbnb, and the host, she's really wonderful. So here's an original building of Les Filles Cabral Maillot Manufacture de Vestements for women, for men and children. So the original signage, Art Nouveau signage, but of course it no longer belongs to that family. Okay, so next block is where we're going, this church, a very unique church. So the kids, they wear these orange vests when they go out on their field trip. So sécurité, keeping safe. So everyone has a very good time. The kids are really cute in France. They get a good education. Bonne éducation ici in France. And here's the church I'm talking about. So this church was built at the end of the 19th century, beginning 20th century, in a Byzantine style, and very similar to what was going on in Constantinople, which is Istanbul now, the Byzantine Empire. So it is a very unique church and very historic for this artwork inside. So they have the winged lions of Saint Mark and the ox for, I forgot, that's Luke. Anyway, the Gospels. Okay, so here we go in. So it has domes like the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. And the artwork is in the Byzantine style, the paintings on the walls. what's really important is that it's a relic here. So a relic is something very holy in the Catholic Church. And this is a relic, supposedly, of one of the thorns from the crown of Christ. So again, if you choose to believe or not, it truly is the thorn that pierced Jesus' head when he was crucified. But many pilgrims believe that. And so it's a very, very sacred place with lots of beautiful artwork. And a glorious stained glass window. Wow. So sadly, they can't keep up on the repair. There's a lot of water damage. So it takes a lot of money to keep up these old churches. Okay. My shoes are squeaking too much. I'm sorry. But this is a really beautiful church. And there's a wood carving here of the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist. That is outstanding carving, worthy of a museum. But this church has been named part of the Patrimony of France, so in a way it is like a museum here. And then they have information on the artists who created the original artwork, which is really interesting. Okay, so back out onto the street. I can go from a whisper back to a normal talking voice. Okay. So the holy thorn, espine is the thorn, because Jesus wore the crown of thorns on his head when he was crucified. And so they believe they found it. If it was a replica or somebody made, we don't know. But the relic is there, and people who believe, they pray there as a holy place. Okay, so now we're coming out to another square. Saint-Étienne is very lovely the way they constructed the city in the 19th century. They laid out the streets with nice parks, many small parks throughout the city. It's a supermarket, My Auchan. And this square is dedicated to a very famous French patriot. During World War II, he helped lead the resistance in south of France, Jean Moulin. So he was very important in the history of France during World War II. Okay, so there's a lot of pigeons here taking a break. There used to be a very grand hotel here, but it now apartments, so people live in beautiful apartments in what was the Grand Hotel of Saint-Étienne. And Saint-Étienne has excellent public transportation. And it's very inexpensive to ride. I think I paid €1.20. So the beautiful hotel is now apartments, but it still has a restaurant, cafe. Okay. So we're going to the tourist office. The tourist office also closes for lunch from 12 to 2. So this part of France are very respectful of tradition and quality of life. Very important. Good food, good wine, good friends, good conversation. That's French life. And Saint-Étienne also is an innovative, creative city. So here's an example of beautiful architecture, contemporary architecture. Okay, we're here, tourist office. Okay, so I got a lot of good information about Saint-Étienne and the region, and I'm gonna go visit a lot more of the historic sites that has beautiful architecture. But right in front of us is a school. So this is the old entrance to the Lycée, but then they built behind it the new school. So they no longer use this entrance. And there's a beautiful monument here. So on the monument, they have the different wars, World War I, the Revolution, and Joan of Arc, and then the Middle Ages. Okay. All right, so back down to the center of town. So Saint-Étienne has many churches, but not many churchgoers anymore. It's kind of throughout Europe, that's the trend of all the old churches are now pretty much museums because there's so few people that go to church now. Back in the day when everyone was Catholic almost and everyone went to church for fear of that they would go to hell if they don't. So now people, they just don't go to church. So this church up ahead is beautiful. I'm not sure if the doors are open today, but I went in before and it was really, really beautiful. So it's across the street from a really cool old building from the Middle Ages, which are now apartments. So some lucky people, they get to live in a 500-year-old building, but it's been modernized on the inside, of course. Okay, the church is open. It has lovely wooden doors with angels above it. And there's a pigeon inside. I don't know how the pigeon got in. Poor pigeon, stuck inside. So this church has lovely stained glass. The French had really were the great leaders in stained glass art. In the 17th, 18th, 19th century. And of course, they go back to the Middle Ages when they started making stained glass. And this is really a beautiful statue of the Virgin Mary with baby Jesus and baby John the Baptist. And then a beautiful sculpture representation of Jesus being removed from the crucifix. And a beautiful organ, which they still give concerts on. Amazing. My squeaky shoes again. And beautiful stained glass. And the confessional, where the priest would sit in the middle and then you go on the side and talk through the little holes and tell them your sins. And what's interesting is that there's many priests that worked here, and they would take their heart and bury their body in the cemetery, but their heart is installed here in the wall. Very interesting tradition of taking somebody's heart out of their body. There's another one. And putting it into the wall. And the last piece in this beautiful church is the pulpit. A pulpit is where the preacher would come up and talk and say the sermon from there, but they don't do that tradition anymore. But this old sculpture is really beautiful. Okay, and there's also some saints painted on the wall. Beautiful. And there is again the baptism. This is where they would do the baptisms before. And they called it a baptismal font, and the depiction of baptism. Okay, we've come to another church. This is dedicated to Saint Louis, King of France. So there was one of the kings of France, I forgot, 800 years ago, who was very, very religious and was made a saint. And so this church is dedicated to him, and they have this lovely big statue up here on this building. So very nice place, square, town square. And up the hill is a beautiful, beautiful building that was a School of the Arts. So Saint-Étienne, as it grew, it dedicated itself to being stylish and had a lot of opportunities for people to study the arts, architecture, drawing, painting, and they made the old market where they used to have the farmers come in and sell their produce. Now it is eatery, so there's a lot of trendy places to eat and drink for lunch and after work. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Okay. So lovely architecture, Saint-Étienne, and really just a lovely little city. Not too big, not too small. So here is a memorial to the resistance and deportation of the Loire, from the Loire, during World War II. So World War II was only 80 years ago. So they have a lot of archives and important information to always remember what happened. Not open today. Okay. You need a reservation. All right. Some more lovely old buildings. Cafe of Old Saint-Étienne. Renovation going on of these old houses. So this goes back to the Renaissance. Wow. Look at that. The faces on if you can see the faces, the heads. And the very old church. And then new buildings down that way. And a little park dedicated to Joan of Arc. So for those who see the video who have never heard of Joan of Arc, in the Middle Ages, she was this simple girl from the countryside who had a vision to help France and lead the army of France against England, and they won. But then she was betrayed and burned as a witch at the stake. So she is a saint, and a lot of people look up to her as a strong woman. Beautiful church. Get out of the street. There's another lovely little square here with a tree and shrubbery and a statue of a boy eating grapes and a leopard or something. I don't know. Very interesting statue. So, very festive. So after the lunch rush, everyone's back in their office or back at school, so it's quiet until they get out of work. Oh, and here is amazing. Not many places still have hat shops, and this is an amazing shop. They have hats for women and for men. Traditional French hats. Very lovely. There's a Bear Columbus coffee. Sounds American, Columbus. And we're on the main shopping street. Oh, and there's the tram. Beautiful buildings.
attendez-le, ce qui est dans le général d'optique. Merci. Ce qui... Ah.
That's interesting, the decorations above the street. Wow. Oh, I guess they light up at night. Oh, pardon? Wow. So we've come to a lovely square in front of the Hôtel de Ville, the city hall, and a carousel for the kids. So this side is not so beautiful, very plain building, and this side has better architecture. So interesting, they have this second tier for the carousel up. Boy, are they running. Somebody's singing. So what are they? Interaction de cour. So he has his own little CDs to sell. So the representation of industry that made Saint-Étienne very rich. So some shops here. A really beautiful building right here. Wow, the doorway is so ornate. A tea shop. And a chocolate shop. And we come into the most lovely square of the town. Flowers. Flowers. A very, very lovely square with this park, fountain, a bandstand, and then they have restaurants that have tables in the park. Oh, I just noticed they have composers on the bandstand. So let's go check out the names of all the important French composers. We have Ravel, Chabrier, Lalo. So many of these composers are not known outside of France. Berlioz, Fauré, Gounod, and Massenet. How lovely, French composers. I don't know if they ever give concerts, but it's a lovely bandstand. Wow. So the trees are just beginning to turn from green to yellow, and then they're going to turn brown, and the leaves will fall as autumn approaches. This weekend is the last weekend of summer, and we begin officially autumn. So it's been a lovely summer in Europe. Nice to sit in here and have a drink. Okay, so the three names I couldn't see from the other side are Bizet, Debussy, and Saint-Saëns. So all the great French composers, all my favorites. And here's a movie theater. It used to be a big Art Deco theater. Now it's a multiplex. And at the end is a very, very beautiful building here. With the original weather meters. Quite unusual here. So it has the temperatures of low, freezing, and then temperate, and then really, really hot, which Syria and Senegal are at the top. And then this is a barometer. Really beautiful building. Wow. And this huge building, very important building, a government building for the region of Haute-Loire. This is the whole region, district in France, Haute-Loire, that we're in. And the entrance is on this side. It's a real fabulous building. It must have a grand reception room up there. So, Loire, le département, préfecture de la Loire. Wow, beautiful. Okay, there's one more building down here I want to go see, with lovely ladies holding up the columns. Okay. 2 ladies and 2 gentlemen from Greek mythology, I believe. And that's my video of Saint-Étienne. So I hope you enjoyed it, and hope you maybe come visit Saint-Étienne one day. Bye. All right. So I signed off on the video, but I met these 2 young students who's studying here, and they speak English very well. So they're going to give me a little information on Saint-Étienne and this tradition. So hi, what's your names?
My name is Noah.
Julian.
Okay, so tell me, Noah and Julian, what's this t-shirt mean?
This is because we have to be integrated in our school,
Yeah?
which is Télécom Saint-Étienne, a huge school of engineering in France.
Okay, I know there's a lot of innovation here going on. There's so many studies for innovation, like cutting edge technology.
There is design, engineering, architecture.
Yes.
For example, right close to our school, there's a lab where there are optical engineers who are working on some machine. Lasers, like lasers.
Okay,
and
cool.
they're studying and
Okay. So what are you going to be when you finish your studies?
For myself, I love informatics, so I do informatic engineering. And you?
I want to be an engineer in artificial intelligence.
Oh, AI is the future.
AI is the future, yes.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting for me, and I really like this domain.
Okay, super. So how were the Olympics for you guys? Everyone around the world was watching the Olympics from Paris.
I wasn't in Paris. I went to Alps.
Okay.
And then I came back to where I'm from. Pau, the best city in France. Pau, P-A-U.
Okay, we'll check that out. Okay, hopefully.
In the southwest.
Okay,
of France.
Because before here I was in Côte d'Azur and lots of Americans. But I like being in Saint-Étienne because I'm like the only American.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love
There's
it
not a lot here.
because I love French culture. I love everything that's French, and so it's like being in Paris but without the crowds or any craziness.
There's much less crowd here.
Yeah. Okay.
For
Well,
sure.
gentlemen, thank you so much for being on my video and adding to the culture of France. And I want people on my channel to know that France is a very beautiful country with a lot of tradition, history, but also cutting edge technology, right?
Yes.
Okay.